Well, let's talk about a group of Delhi police personnel who have sought permission to hold one-day peaceful Dharna at Jantar Mantar on the 31st of July. Now, the Delhi Police Mahasangh, an association which is of retired, non-gazetted and gazetted officers, have now written to the police commissioner seeking approval for the protest. Now, this association cites injuries suffered by the Delhi police and paramilitary personnel during the incidents from the 20th of July onwards, particularly around Jantar Mantar, as the reason behind the proposed demonstration. And however, there has been a lot of focus on the police excesses on the peaceful protesters. But here, the police side, which has also been the veterans who are now saying that it was the police as well who was attacked and targeted. Now, this is where they are now seeking as far as holding a peaceful dharna is concerned, saying that their side of the story as well should be highlighted. So retired policemen are now raising the issue of the injuries that have now come in on from the personnel there, where several videos on the accounts there on part of Delhi police personnel also receiving grievous injuries that have now surfaced. Let's connect with Priyank on this. Priyank, it is important to put out the other side of the story too.
Yes, Chatti, Amita, because there have been series of attacks which had happened on the Delhi police personnel so far. The debate is also, going around that whether the RPF had all used the pellet gun or not. But these policemen who were injured in the kind of violence which had happened, many of the police personnel who were deployed on the location, wherever they were being spotted alone, they were attacked. That's why the SOP was followed by the Delhi police later on, that no policemen will be moving alone. They have to move in a group. So that is certainly something which has touched those former police personnel who have served in the Delhi police. That's why they have called for another protest march at Jantar Mantar in solidarity with the kind of attack which had happened on the Delhi police personnel, and they are also looking for the reform. Today the matter is expected to be heard by the apex court, and yesterday in the observation the court had also mentioned that the police personnel should not have gone in these locations without a proper riot gear. Why no proper riot gear was provided to the Delhi police personnel when they were at the location? So there have been multiple things which is going to happen today, and everything is depending on the apex court hearing. But before that, the former association of the police personnel who are gazetted and non-gazetted officers have called for the protest at Jantar Mantar. Amita.
Absolutely. But when we speak about the police, when it comes to the brutality that was meted out on them as well, who will be investigating on that aspect? Because there have been videos that have been released on part of how these certain policemen or security officials were, cornered, they were beaten up, they were attacked mercilessly.
What it appears that the police will have to bank on the 4 FIRs which has been filed on the journalist's behalf, Amita, because there have been total 20 FIRs, 14 FIRs will be quashed. 1 FIR is related to flying of a drone in this area, and the rest of the FIRs are on the behest of the journalists. Since the central government has already agreed to take back those FIRs which have been filed for rioting, for arsoning, for attack on the police personnel, obstructing public servant from discharge of their duty. So these things will have to come under the ambit of the investigation, which the police is thinking to bank on the assault on the journalists, because the government's FIR, which has been filed, 15 of them, had been from the government side, from the police official side. So all they have in their hand to prove the larger conspiracy is to go through the journalist FIR.
So what we are seeing as far as the CJP protest is concerned, police personnel who came in the line of fire, as far as them being attacked is also concerned, we are looking at multiple videos that have also now surfaced. There you can see, as far as the police personnel are concerned, fully covered as far as in their riot shield covers or their armor is concerned, and that is where something that they were continuously hit, they were beaten up, they were gherowed in such a manner. There you can see anybody who was spotted in a uniform was attacked. So this is something which is the other side of the story, where the veterans there coming in from the police are now seeking justice for these individuals. Being a part of the force and doing their duty is something that they are now seeking justice for their end. What has now been said, over 100 of the police officials had also sustained grievous injuries on part of the protest that had happened. So this is something which in one way that is now being trying to project as far as peaceful protest is concerned, but there was violence nonetheless, and violence that has now happened on part of the CJP. They are now talking about police excesses and brutality and atrocities that has been meted on them then, and they are now seeking withdrawal of the FIRs and no further action on the protesters. Meanwhile, the police veterans are saying saying that what about us as far as the police personnel who have also sustained injuries during the protest. Let's in the meantime also talk about when it comes to the student protests and how it was, the images coming in from the Delhi police which have now been released, and the Delhi police alleging that nearly 2,873 men with criminal antecedents were present at the protest site between July 20th and July 25th. Now, these criminals who have been identified using facial recognition and through other technical means, as the police are now investigating whether these men were involved in violence that broke out at Jantar Mantar in and around New Delhi, and these criminals who are involved in heinous crimes such as sexual assault, murder, and crime that seems to be involving minors as well. So now that seems to be the take as far as the evidence that has been presented on part of the Delhi police that establishes that there were presence of antisocial elements, in fact criminal elements as well, that were a part of these protests there and seem to derail the protest. So these are, as far as the claims are now concerned, in the dossier date when it comes to individuals who have been identified having criminal antecedents, and say one named Yesh, and that is also something which has now been known, having personal information that has now been accessed on part of the Delhi police, which claim that they had a certain role to play when it comes to the protest and the violence that was witnessed there. There are other individuals as well, all of them that is now coming in as far as their faces that has been recognized using technology. All right, Ms. Kiran Reddy is connected with us right now. Ma'am, thank you very much for connecting with us here on Times Now. Please talk us through as far as the police excesses is concerned, because this is something which the Cockroach Janata Party has been saying, but that only seems to be only one side of the story. There has been injuries on part of the police officials that have also been sustained. What about them?
Well, that is the truth. We have to strike a balance, and justice means hearing both sides and then coming to conclusions. And I'm very happy to see the Honorable Supreme Court's observation that the injuries on the police also need to be examined. You remember, I think some channel asked me, should there be an inquiry into police lathi charge? I said, yes, allow the police department first to examine what went wrong and what went right. And then the control room technology today speaks. Technology today tells you the truth. Technology tells you who did what. And technology also is telling you whether the lumpen elements, criminal elements who are trying to use the situation to their ends to create chaos and mayhem. Because chaos suits a criminal, suits a criminality-oriented people. So I think it's about balance in everything we do. You cannot, when your police is the last resort, it cannot be the first victim also. So I think it's striking a balance and striking a sense of justice. And I think, remember, police is also from us, from the community within.
Yes.
They were students till yesterday and they are cops today, right? So that is the point. I think it's a good striking balance.
But ma'am, what would you say as far as when it comes to, because the entire issue that has been politicized as such, because the CJP meanwhile has taken back its protest. The opposition is talking about the police excesses, saying that alleged use of pellet guns and sophisticated weapons on peaceful unarmed protesters that may have been used.
You see, everybody, unless you're balanced, you will get lopsided and one-sided. Even the opposition is, after all, part of the community. But the opposition's needs, personal needs, have to become subservient to the larger good also. So I think if everybody, whether you are in power or you are in opposition, and whether you are a person in a police authority, I think it's a question of justice and fair play. Everybody has to feel a sense of justice and fair play. That is, to my mind, humanity.
Right.
Now, if you care to go into egos and selfish interests, then everybody is at the receiving end.
Right, ma'am. Thank you very much, Dr. Bedi, for connecting with us. As the former IPS officer, putting both sides of the story, that becomes very important to strike a balance there. As far as the police personnel who have also sustained grievous injuries during the protest that happened last week. In the meantime, we're going to head into a very short break. You're watching Times Now.